Welcome to the Subconscious Elements podcast. Today we're going to talk about the movie Interstellar with Matthew McConaughey, directed by Christopher Nolan. It's an absolutely mind-bending movie, covers a lot of different things. We're super stoked to get into it, and I will kick it off to my co-host, Tori Sadliff.
Christopher Nolan's movie Interstellar blends mind-bending science as well as deeply human emotions. In this film, we're able to go over the aspects of time dilation, black holes, and what it means to be pushed to our limits as a human when faced through the darkest parts of our survival. Whether this movie leaves you in tears, awe, or totally confused, we're going to break that down for you right here.
Yeah, so it starts out and it kind of shows like this dystopian future in a sense that the earth is like falling apart. It's no longer able to sustain human life. They're kind of showing it as like this mass dust bowl all over the planet. So the soil has eroded to such an extent that you can't grow any crops. So, and this is currently a problem that we're facing. It's just this was taken to another level. But as you may know, we are obviously farming and using agriculture to such an extent that it kills the soil and robs the soil of nutrients, which over time produces less crops, less nutrient-dense crops. And depending on who you talk to and where you get your sources from, it will say like different effects. Some say it's already really bad. Some says we still have some time, anywhere from 20 to 60 years. But even that is still not a lot of time. And so there's like a huge push for regenerative farming right now. But again, the premise is that this is like already at its worst in this future, in this reality. And so also as the soil becomes more degraded, it can then be picked up by the wind, which can turn into these huge sandstorms and dust bowls. You can look those up, but it like starts off telling the story of how like this dust bowl is just like destroying wherever they're at. I don't know where they're at exactly, like Wyoming or Nevada.
The movie actually includes autobiographies from real life during a dust bowl that happened in Texas.
Yeah. Oh, dang. I didn't know it was real.
Yeah, he based the facts of the movie off of a real incident that occurred. I'm not sure exactly when. I know it was in Texas. And so, like the small nuanced details of like them flipping over their plates when they're not in use because the dust will come into the house and dirty up all the dishes that are placed on the table, or whether they're covering the cars when they're not using them, or taking all these extra precautions. And yeah, the older folks that are on the television, those were real.
Dang, I didn't know that. Even more trippy.
Yeah.
And then it shows like there's parts in the movie where they have to cover themselves from the dust storms or sandstorms, where it's like almost like Mad Max looking. They have to wear masks and cover their eyes just so they can see. And there's like a huge one that hits in the movie, and they can't even see to get home.
Yeah, the effects over time actually harms the family of the main character's son. Mm-hmm. He eventually gets a wife and has kids, and they're all suffering greatly because of the dust getting into their lungs. And so it's showing like real impacts of how people really did die because of such things.
Yeah.
So.
And then what's even crazier is that's only one small aspect of it. When Cooper, the main character, who's played by Matthew McConaughey, goes and discovers NASA, and that whole thing is trippy how that all happens. But when they bring him in and they're trying to convince him to take this mission, which leads out into space, they tell him that corn, which is like the last crop that they can grow, and he makes a comment earlier in the movie about one of the guys has to like burn all his crops because he chose to grow okra and finds out like middle of the season that he can't grow it anymore and he has to burn. And Cooper makes a comment, he's like, you should have just grew corn like the rest of us. But then as he comes upon the secret base, which is NASA, and it has to be secret because the human population, or like the United States, no longer really wants NASA because they want those funds to go towards helping the environment, not looking out towards the space. So they hid NASA and like made it like undercover and secret. And he stumbles upon it by communication with his future self. We'll get into that in a moment. But when he's there, the main scientist who's running it tells him that corn is going to die within the year. So the last crops that they're growing are already they're on their last season. And so, and this is news to him, and you know, he's like one of the best farmers there, right? And then and just the backstory on Cooper, he was a former NASA pilot turned farmer because they have to grow food. And so and he makes this comment, the NASA scientist says that people will starve before they suffocate. So he was saying like eventually the environment's going to get so bad that people are going to suffocate, but that because of the food shortage that people are actually going to starve before they suffocate, but that both are coming. Like even if they figure out the food problem, the nitrogen in the air is like whatever's killing the crops produces a bunch of nitrogen, and so the air is also going to become unbreathable. So they have like all these things that are coming out to get them. You got the dust bowls, which are killing people with lung cancer essentially, and then you have not enough food because the soil is deteriorated, and then also there's too much nitrogen being produced by this disease that's affecting all the plants, and so the air is going to become unbreathable.
Yeah, so Christopher Nolan took this whole idea to the next level. He actually planted over 200 acres of corn just specifically for this movie, and he ends up selling it and making a profit that helps him fund the movie itself. But with the corn, sorry, I forgot where I was going with that. Hold on one second.
Corn on the cob?
No, they have literally every corn recipe. Oh, yeah. So, his son, the main character's son, I'm forgetting his name in the movie.
Should we ask AI?
Yeah, what's his name? So I don't have to just say main character.
Cooper's.
Oh, yeah, Cooper. Name. Cooper, but then, yeah, what's his son?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Well, the corn on the cob thing made me think about that episode in Rick and Morty where they go
Everything's on the cob.
Everything's on the cob, and they're like, anything but this place. His name is Tom.
Okay, yeah, so as Tom's growing up, Cooper wants him to go into science. And so as he's graduating, he's reviewing his options with the counselor, principal, whoever, and they're telling him that all of the funding is no longer going into hospitals or science, that it's going into farming. But technically that's a lie, because Cooper makes a comment. He says, well, where are all my taxes going? Because it's sure as heck not going to the colleges. And if he can't go to college, then what am I paying all this money for? And so secretly, the government is actually funding NASA behind the scenes because they know that that's their only last choice. But they're also like telling the masses that farming is the only choice, and they're like hiding the truth behind like a smoke screen and saying, no, we have to do farming, when in reality they're funding the NASA and they know exactly what's going on. And yeah, so the way he gets the information to get to the NASA is his future self sends him coordinates through a drone that came from India. And yeah, you remember that drone that flew over?
No, it wasn't the coordinates from the drone. It was coordinates from the dust in the room.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was just it was just a crazy moment chasing down the drone because it just kind of gives you an idea of just how like far away from tech that they've come and how he's still able to utilize the tech and make it useful. But no, he gets the coordinates from the way that the dust falls in the sandstorm. It like lines itself out in a specific pattern, and he turns that into coordinates.
Into Morse code. Yeah.
Into coordinates, not Morse code. So Morse code was another way that he was trying to communicate, because Morse code is a way to. I mean, I guess you could put it into numbers as well, but it's usually meant to send out messages. But yeah, maybe it is Morse code. But yeah, he uses it to give himself coordinates. But it was the way the dust fell. So he like manipulates.
He opened the window in the house that allowed dust to fly through the window, and then.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was also able to control the machinery through the other dimension also.
Yeah, he wasn't trying to control it. I think they were just reacting to the gravity shifts that he was messing with. But he couldn't control it. I think they were just reacting to the anomaly. I could be wrong. Who knows?
Because I was thinking about that one scene with the sun and how he gets the machines to move in order to distract him, and like he also like set some corn on fire so they could save the family. Like how did he control the machinery then?
Okay, so what machines are you talking about? Okay, so
Like the tractors.
He wasn't trying to control the tractors. He was just messing with gravity, and it was messing with the compasses of the machines.
Okay.
And so then they were all like running into the house because they essentially like work off a compass, and it was just messing them up. It was sending them haywire. So it was like I said, from what I understand, it was just messing because he was messing with the gravity. It was messing with the machines, and so it was a clue that something was going on. But he wasn't necessarily trying to control the machines. He was just trying to get a message across. And then the fire happened. Murph set that off. Murphy, she set the fire.
So she can get the family out.
Yeah, her original plan was to get the family out, but then she's like, there has to be something here.
Oh yeah, and then she goes back for the watch.
Right.
Yeah, so well, I guess we can go into like time, dilation, and relativity.
Yeah. Well, should we explain like
the whole plot of the movie?
Yeah, well, kind of just like the timeline. Because first they're dealing with the Dust Bowl. And then they figure out that what you were saying originally is that the government's lying to humanity. They're essentially telling humanity that they have to farm their way out of this and they need more people studying agriculture. But deep down they know that's not the truth, and that the only way is to leave the planet, which is, just a crazy thing in general, because actually what you would want is you'd want as many humans studying the problem as possible, not trying to avoid mass panic and lying to people, because now you're wasting resources and intelligent minds. So just like how his son, he wanted him to be in science, but now he's like forcing him to be a farmer. Well, that's just a wasted mind when he could have been an engineer and then helped solve something or create something that would help the problem. So it's just like that, that reason why you're not supposed to do those types of things is like you want as many humans working on the problem as possible. Another trippy aspect just to that as well, like the whole lying to the humans. So there's like this moment where he has to, in that same meeting he has with the principal, it was originally about his daughter Murph, who's one of the main characters. She is really passionate about her dad and him being an engineer, and she had one of his old textbooks and was telling everyone about the moon landings. But in this reality, they've changed the textbooks to tell them that the moon landing wasn't real. It was just propaganda to motivate the American people to actually it was propaganda so that Russia would spend all their money trying to do it, or the Soviet Union, and burn all their resources while America was just faking it and didn't ever actually go to the moon. And that was like one of the premises of the the meeting that they had, and this sets Cooper off because he was a NASA pilot, so he definitely knows that they went to the moon, and is just like completely disrespected that this teacher thinks she knows everything, and has essentially been led astray, and then is punishing his daughter for being excited about something that's true, but it's not what they believe anymore. And she's saying that Murphy's a problem because she's now trying to convince the other kids that the moon landing happened. And what's trippy about that is one of the main problems today, or a significant problem today, is this idea of like uneducation and like the rise of like conspiracy theories, and that like a lot of people don't believe that we went to the moon. I mean, there's even like, I mean, everyone believes like some sort of conspiracies, and some people will take that to an extreme level. But yeah, some people think that the moon landings were fake, that we never went to the moon. Some people think that we never went to space, and that you can't go to space. People believe that the Earth is flat, and this essentially becomes a problem now because these people, one, make money off the ignorance of others, and then lead people astray. And one of the best things that humanity can do for itself is everyone being educated. Like, you want as many parts of the population educated as possible. It's the uneducated that end up causing a majority of the problems. And so, like, if you look back through time, it's not being educated on something that allows mass populations to make the wrong decision. And it's the education of a population that allows it to rise. So you want as many people as possible educated, and that's like a direct correlation of a country's success is directly correlated to the amount of people that are educated. And so, but with the prominence of the internet and how everyone has access to information, whether it's true or not everyone knows how to decipher what information is correct and what information is false. And now with the algorithms, you essentially get like this perfect echo chamber of whatever it is that you seem to think. You'll hear more of that because the algorithms on these social media platforms, on Google, are going to try to feed you more of it so that you will stay engaged. And there's just this really recent news about Bryce Mitchell, the UFC fighter, top 15, I think, welterweight, 170, or maybe he's 155 or one of those. And he made some crazy remarks about Hitler.
Thug nasty.
yeah, and he's a fan favorite. People really like him, but he's like always been known as a guy who thinks differently because he's from like the middle of nowhere, Georgia or Alabama. And like on the last interview, I like kind of made fun of him because he was saying he's like, I mean, his point isn't completely wrong, but he was just saying that he doesn't like seatbelts, doesn't like to wear them, which is, one way or the other. But his original point was that the government shouldn't be able to tell you to wear a seatbelt, which I guess, it's like, what do you believe that the government should be able to tell you to do and what not to do? But he made a funny comment. He was just like, well, what if I want to jump out and do a barrel roll? See, people don't think about stuff like that. It's just like, I mean, I've heard people say that more people get hurt with seatbelts on. I don't believe it. I'm pretty sure we should be wearing seatbelts, but I don't have the numbers in front of me or the statistics. But to think that you're safer jumping out of a moving vehicle is not smart. So, and I'm pretty sure he's like talked about flat Earth and stuff like that. But he just recently came on saying that he didn't think Hitler was a bad guy until he started doing meth. And yeah, he's been getting shit on by the entire community as a whole, and was shunned by Dana White. He didn't get fired though, so that's good. But it goes to this idea that, and he says when he makes those comments, he's like, I've done my own research. And it's like, the thing about doing your own research is that there is a specific way to do research. You can't just, I went and read it somewhere, so that means it's true. that doesn't mean anything, because then you can read anything. Anything that you read could be true. So how do you know what someone has written down is true or not? How do you go back to the sources? Where is the original information coming from? Has that information been verified? In what ways has the information been verified? So there's like information can be verified in certain ways, and some ways way heavier than others, as in a sense that like this is more likely to be true because it's been verified in this process, whereas this is an account of an account, or this is what someone said that they heard from something. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, has this information been checked by an actual document somewhere, or is it in an archive? Things like that. And this is what historians go through and actually do. Like, their mission is to find the original sources of the information and annotate it and do things like that. So that's why it's very important, one, education in general, but also where are you getting this education from, and is it from reliable sources? And so it's like a lot of people say, it's like, go do your own research, or I did my own research. And it's like, but what are you researching? Because you can Google any crazy idea and it's probably out there with people writing on it. So it's like you could do research, but it could be bad research. And so, yeah, just like how, again, one of the major issues that we're coming with today is science has gotten so good, so advanced that most people just don't understand it. Me being one of them. I'm not an educated science person, so I don't know anything. But I have learned enough that I can easily listen to what someone's saying, and I can tell if they're lying or not. If they're like, trying to sell you fancy hydrogen water, or trying to tell you that, you can speak to your water and charge it with energy. Like, at some point it's the uneducated that get taken advantage of. And so you gotta challenge yourself to get educated so that you don't get scammed. And especially because we're in the spiritual community, you see a lot of that. You see a lot of people taking advantage of this idea that it can't be proven with empirical science. So because it can't be, now you can kind of sell like anything. Like, one of the hugest things in the spiritual community is all these different types of waters. And it's like, that's just one of the easiest ways to make money, is you get something that's free and then you put a price tag on it, and now you can make money and sell it to people who don't know any better. And the way they do this is they say a bunch of words that kind of are in the same thing, but if you actually look the words up, they actually mean something very specific or completely different than the way that they're being used. But because not all of us have the time, you hear words, but you don't know exactly what they mean. So you know that the word that they're saying is a thing like hydrogen, and it's like, oh, hydrogen water, yeah, that makes sense. My water needs more hydrogen. And yeah, my body is made up of 86% water. So yeah, I need hydrogenized water so that it absorbs it more. Like, you can use these words, and then you can take someone that's not educated on something or not educated at all, and you can kind of create like this very imaginary line that you can kind of help them get to based on fancy words that they just won't have the time to look up and actually study about. And because of that, it actually like sets us as a population back, because you have people that are believing in nonsense. And so that, to me, was like an ode to that, where it's like, now there's like the kids are being taught about something that is for their betterment, but it's really not, as you come to find out, because again, you need as many humans to know the truth so that we can study and advance humans, as opposed to lying to them to help them or whatever.
Yeah, that's one of the faults of not putting your trust in humanity, because if they were to give them the correct information and trust that they would do the right things with that information, then I honestly believe that people would make their own decision. The people that want to be farmers would be more happy to be a farmer, and the people that want to go into science would be more happy to go into science, knowing that there is like a true mission and reason behind it. And then, like you said, the more that we have capable minds on the problem, the quicker we can solve the issue. And then you have people at the top that are kind of like the gatekeepers of the information, and then as you see, it can get like manipulated in a way that they're in their own echo chamber and they're at the top, but they don't have anyone contesting them or bringing them new ideas. So Yeah, the guy at the top of NASA, he had the equation solved, but he had purposely not given that information to the daughter.
Well, he didn't have it solved. He knew it was unsolved. It was unsolvable.
Unsolvable.
Yeah, so he actually didn't figure it out, but he already knew that it couldn't be figured out.
Yeah, he spent
Not
his
the way
life.
that he was doing it anyway.
Yeah, so he had created like a sequence that he believed was the way to solve it, but his sequence had flaws. And she found out that it had flaws and it couldn't be solved with that sequence, so she had to create her own sequence. Whereas he could have given her the information that, hey, this can't be solved, and she could have maybe solved it quicker.
Right, he wasted a bunch of their time. And sent them. So the head of NASA, he sends Cooper off on this mission to repopulate a new planet. And the mission is to hopefully find a new planet and then transport the people there. And in order to do that, he has to solve like this problem of gravity. Like, how do you move all these people? And he says he has an equation that can, I think this is what it's about. But yeah, he's supposed to be able to solve gravity and how to move things. And so he sells Cooper on the idea that if you go and find a planet that's habitable, we can then move people over to the new planet. However, there was no answer to the equation, and his secret plan is to essentially, he was sending them on a suicide mission because they're never meant to come back. They're essentially, so plan A is to find a suitable planet and then move people over there. That's what he told Cooper was the plan. But really, plan A was what he told him is plan B. He's like, if you, for whatever reason, we can't come back or something happens, if you get to the new planet, they have embryos of like the number of DNA sequences that they need to start a whole new civilization. And so he was like, that's plan B if something goes wrong, but our main mission is plan A. But actually, he already knew that plan A wouldn't work, and that plan B was the entire mission, actually. And he's just like, yeah, he kind of knew that they would figure it out and that they would just do the right thing and set up humanity, which is crazy.
Yeah, I feel like he did that on purpose because he knows the ways of the human mind, and that Cooper wouldn't have accepted the mission.
Exactly.
And he wouldn't have made the correct sacrifices to
he wouldn't have left
leave
his
family. Yeah.
Right, yep.
And so he had to like butter him up and tell him something that he wanted to hear, even though it was false.
Correct.
So it's like the motivation to bring your family to the new survivable planet was the reason why he kept going.
Right.
And he even lied to his daughter too. Like, his daughter didn't know the truth either.
Right.
Yeah, so...
And his daughter is Anne Hathaway, who's like one of the other main characters. So she's one of the astronauts that goes with Cooper on the mission.
Yeah, but prior to sending Cooper and Anne Hathaway, he sent other people into space to check planets. So they sent these astronauts into space. They all split into different planets, and once they arrived on the planet, they were supposed to send back information to tell Cooper whether or not the planet was habitable. And so they ended up getting information back from, I think, all of the planets, and they go on this crazy mission to go through a black hole. And to film this, Christopher Nolan actually had like a physicist help him, and the physicist's name is Kip Thorne. And so they based it off of true information and made it as realistic as possible in comparison to a real black hole. So much that the movie was studied by physicists afterwards and used to visualize what it would be like and help them further their way in science in real life. So
Yeah, well, that's like one of the major things about this movie is how good the science is. Like they went out of their way to make sure that everything that they were doing, the science like adds up. It's not just like a movie, like a sci-fi movie. Like they went way out of their way to make sure that everything that is being said, everything that's being shown, everything that's being done is like
Quantifiable.
and physically, like by physics possible.
Yeah, so
The original mission, real quick, was the Lazarus missions.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and they had their hero, who was Dr. Mann. He was a hero known on Earth, and he was sent into space, and everyone was kind of rooting for him. But further down the line, we find out that he's actually the darkest villain of the entire movie. But, yeah, so Kip Thorne's information was actually based off of Einstein's theory of relativity. And so it just explains, like, how the closer you are to black hole, time is different, whether you're on Earth or a different planet. And we see this on the first planet that they reach. There is, so each minute is 7 hours, or
No.
it says 1 hour on Miller's planet is 7 on
years.
Earth. So yeah, 7 years on Earth. So there's this big debate in Cooper's mind. He's like, well, if we go to this planet and it's a waste of time, we're going to miss out on so much time on Earth. And so he doesn't really want to go, but they get back information that maybe it's possible, that it's habitable, and so they go to this planet regardless.
Because there was a beacon on the planet.
And so once they get there, they realize like it's full of water, and they're on this planet. And actually, it took like 100 hours to film this one scene in this movie. Yeah, with the water, and they wanted to make it look as realistic as possible with the wave coming up. And so they realized that the person that had landed on that planet landed only like hours prior to them.
No, minutes.
Minutes, yeah, dang. Minutes before.
It had just happened. So
Dang.
just now, I want to say it was in December. They said that from the time that the movie came out to now, only an hour and like 27 minutes had passed.
Dang.
So this, whenever this movie was made, I'm pretty sure it was like 2000. Hold on, let me switch it up. When did Interstellar come out? But yeah, so they imagined that she had been there for a long time, but because of the time dilation, it literally just happened. Like they said, she had been there for only minutes. So like because he goes, why is there still debris everywhere? And then they did the calculation. It's like she had probably been there for a couple minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy.
In accordance to them. So it came out 2014. So that was 11 years ago. Yep, 11 years ago, and only an hour had passed by in 11 years. Yeah, right, because then, each hour is 7 years.
7 years.
So 7 years, and then it was an hour and
Some change.
some change.
Yeah, dang.
And so when they had gotten there, it wasn't that long. So, pretty trippy.
So she dies basically immediately, and then they realize they think there's a horizon. They think there's like a land, but it's actually this ginormous wall that you can't even see above. That's a wave
Of water.
Yeah, the female character, she's trying to get the information from the beaker of the person that passed, and she's trying to stay there longer, and they basically barely make it out. And then one of the other main characters, not main character, but one of the other astronauts, he goes out to try to help her, and he ends up dying in that scene.
That guy. Dead. Because of her. Typical.
Yeah, and then they have those robot helpers, which is cool. The TARS. Yeah.
And he turns into like this cool little wheel thing, and he like moves super fast.
Yeah. Yeah, but these are like loyal companions, and it's funny because Cooper like doesn't like them in the beginning. He just thinks they're like useless robots, and he doesn't trust them or whatever. But they actually are lifesavers in the movie.
Yeah.
And so he grows to love them.
Yeah. And it's like there's like a joke between him and Cooper going on, between the TARS robot and Cooper, like the whole time they had like a little funny relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, so then they leave that planet and then they have the option to either go to one or the other. So they get the information back that Dr. Mann's planet has possible habitable land, or they get information back that the female astronaut, her love interest, pings them a location that his planet is possibly habitable also. And so they have one other astronaut in the ship as well. And so they're all like voting where they should go. And the female character has this big monologue about love and how she believes that regardless of her interest in that man, that love exists beyond space and time, and that it's a force like gravity. And she honestly believes that that's the right way to go. But the other two are convinced that she's blindsided by love and using it as a way just to get back with the man of her dreams or whatever. And so they choose to go to the other planet. And so they go to the planet with Dr. Mann, and this is where we can see the darkest sides of human survival and the instincts. And basically he tricks them into going to his planet and ends up wasting a lot of time because he was there for years and was fighting the urge to reach out to someone to save him because he was alone. And he couldn't deal with the fact that he was going to die alone on a planet. Because
the planet he went to was uninhabitable.
Mm-hmm.
And so essentially, so they sent these guys out all to a different planet to see if it's habitable, but if it's not, you essentially go there to die because there's no way for you to get back. And so he was just there, like doing the work that he's supposed to do, but eventually became so miserable that he so if it is habitable, you're supposed to activate a beacon and send the information of the possible life, and he ends up using that as a way to draw people in.
Yeah, so they go to that planet and they find out that he's lying, and he tries to kill Cooper and tries to steal their ship. I think he actually did steal the ship, but he couldn't correctly dock the ship onto the mothership, and so he dies in the process. And yeah, that just shows you how crazy it can be when you're tested to that amount of extreme. It's like, who knows what anyone else would have done. But he did have the option. He said he put himself into a eternal sleep and that he did not plan on waking up.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that would be the right thing to do. But
he had already sent the beacon.
He had already sent it before.
Terrorist.
Yep.
So, and then, yeah, the rest of the movie... Well, so, yeah, they deal with that, and that's, like, one of the high points of the movie. Because that's, like, he's, like, the antagonist, so they go against the antagonist. And then after that is when... another crazy thing is, so... Only... 3 of them went down to the planet with the crazy time dilation, and then when they got back... Only 2 of them made it because one of them dies. But they had left a guy to man the bigger ship, and he said like 36 years had passed, or something crazy while they were on that planet for like an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 30 years? It was something crazy.
I thought it was like 27. I don't remember though.
Yeah. It was a long time. Like, so when they get back, he's like an old man.
Mm-hmm.
And
he chose not to put himself into like any sleep to preserve himself.
Yeah, so the whole time he's like studying the black hole to see if he can pull some information.
Yeah, and so he confirm that the other planet is a better way to go from his studies? I don't remember if he does or not.
No, from what I understand, he wasn't able to get much out of the...
Yeah, he's just feeding the information that he's receiving, but
Right.
maybe not coming to any conclusions.
But then he dies too.
Yeah, that's super sad.
Yeah. And then so from there, what decision do they make? They make to go into the black hole? Or the wormhole? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, once they get back to the mothership, they receive all the messages from their loved ones while they were gone. And so it's within minutes, Cooper's just watching his son grow up from a little boy into a girlfriend, then a wife, then kids, and just watching like his enthusiasm like die over time. And then he decides like he's no longer going to send messages. And then the entire time the daughter never sent any messages, but she sends one on the day that she turns the same age that he would have been if he didn't leave. So the day he left, he was a certain age, and by the time she sends the message, she turns that age. And so it's like full of just crazy emotion. And before that, she had already found out about the unsolvable equation, and she had figured out that he was never coming back. And she believes that he made that decision knowing that information, but he didn't already know the information.
Right. So then it's like so crazy when you think about just how many scenes in this movie are like absolutely mind-blowing. So after they enter the wormhole, that's when Matthew McConaughey ends up in the Tesseract, which is a trippy thing in of itself, but it's essentially time portrayed as
like a fifth dimension.
Well, so he's in a fifth dimension, right? It's a fifth dimension that's structured as a fourth dimension, portrayed as a 3-dimension.
So he can understand it.
Right. It's I actually have something, but a little visual, but it's like so that he can access time. And this is how he was able to communicate with himself before. Mm-hmm. But that's the time dimension that he enters. But it says the fifth dimension is depicted in a 4-dimensional tesseract, visualized in a 3-dimensional perspective, shown in a 2-dimensional screen, and emphasizes how one concept transcends them all, which is love. But because it's his love for his family that allows him to figure out a way to communicate with his daughter so that she can get the information that she needs to solve the equation, which is super trippy. But yeah, if you think about this, is because our minds can't really imagine what a fifth or a fourth dimension is. But the way that they portray it here is like, again, super trippy.
Yeah, and they say that there's higher dimensional beings there that are kind of helping him, like guide him and allow him to receive the information and be able to use it in a way that he can comprehend it. They're like creating that space for him. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because they have like all the knowledge of space and time, but they can't put it into like a physical reality.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's humans though.
Yeah.
It's humans from the future.
Humans from the future. It's like maybe it's him in the future helping him in the past.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yep. So he was the ghost. He was Murphy's ghost.
Yeah, and she actually says that in one of the opening scenes. She's like, I thought you were the ghost. And then it's right in the beginning, and he's like, what are you talking about? There's no ghost. And yeah, so we think that it's the love that he has for her, but it's actually the love that she has for him that helps her come up with information also. So him leaving was the fuel that allowed her to propel herself to the answers.
We'll be right back. What the hell's going on? Can you stop it? Stop the camera?
Yeah.
Yeah, never mind. I ain't answering that Ford door.
A salesman or something?
Yep.
They came over yesterday trying to sell me out something.
What was it?
I didn't even know door-to-door salesmen still think.
I don't know.
They're trying to get me to switch to AT&T. And I was like, no.
Yeah, maybe we should shut that window.
No, they should just go away.
Remember the good old days when you could just enjoy your house like a normal human?
What do they look like? Looks like a mailman. I'm pretty sure that's a mailman. He's gone now. I seen him walk away.
You think he was a mailman?
Yeah, he had a little satchel. I couldn't tell though, honestly, but I thought he was a mailman. But I guess if he was a mailman, he just would have put something in there.
Which way did he go?
That way. He didn't have no logo on his shirt.
It looked like he was trying to sell something to me.
Yeah. Don't go out there. Just leave him. He didn't slide nothing through the door?
Nope.
Oh.
Yeah, no mailman comes walking around. He didn't look like no mailman I would trust. Did you hit record again?
I did not turn him off. You said don't turn him off.
Okay. Yeah, no, there's door-to-door salesmen in these neighborhoods. I saw one not that long ago. He came knocking on our door.
Yeah. Yeah, one of them came over yesterday while I was cooking and trying to talk to me forever. And I'm like, dude, I'm not trying to burn my food right now. Literally, I could smell the pot starting to get too hot. And I'm like, I have to go.
All right. So where were we?
We were talking about the love that she had for him and how it helped propel her forward. And then the Tesseract and how it's a different time and space dimension with higher beings.
Right. Yeah, so, and then they do pull him from the Tesseract, and he's like hasn't changed much at all, but his daughter still is still alive, but she's like way older. And then he goes on a mission. For who again? Who does he go on the mission? Maybe it was one of the guys that was still on the planet waiting. I can't remember.
Well, I know the girl she went to the other planet and her name is Dr. Brand. But yeah, she went to the other planet with the embryos and she found out that it's habitable and she's waiting for him.
Oh, that's where he was going at the end of the movie. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so they start repopulating the new Earth or the new planet.
Ooh. Interesting.
Yeah, so the whole time Cooper feels all sad that he couldn't be there for her, his daughter, but she had a full life and she tells him like don't feel regret or sorrow, that she came to the conclusion that everything happened for a reason, whether it was fate or destiny, that she no longer feels any type of negative way towards him, and that she had like her whole family there with her as she's passing. And they actually they renamed the town after her. And it's funny because when Cooper comes back, he thinks the town's named after him, but it's actually named after his daughter. And so, yeah, she's made the biggest impact on the planet. And so then he is able to put that to rest and then start his new life.
Yeah, well, it's funny because the when they make that comment, they kind of like laugh at him. They're like, "No, it's actually named after your daughter." I would have been like, "Well, she's named after me." So don't forget. Well, yeah. So that's the movie. Well, what deep spiritual concepts would you like to discuss?
Oh, I mean, we can talk about whether or not it's happening on Earth right now. I mean, a lot of people think that it could be a possibility that they could be lying to the masses currently and they could be doing something similar or already doing something similar. And then, just like we saw in the movie, it's everyone's thought that, oh, well, I'll be picked to go. And the reality is that it's not likely, that they're not going to be able to transport many people, hardly any people, and then the people that they do transport have to be the most knowledgeable, the most ready for the job. And so, what do you think about that? You think could it be happening and we just would never know?
That the Earth is dying?
Because we hear all these things, and there's like this argument of global warming, but then there's the other side of the argument that the Earth has never been in a stable temperature and that it's just all a hoax. So I think that the idea exists in the masses, at least to some degree.
Yeah, no, it's definitely trippy to think about. Yeah, I'm not sure.
And then it's like even the people at the top, like our president, like would they even know? Because it could just be like a separate entity of people that know. And he could just be as unknowing as the rest of us and just treading us along.
Yeah, but there is already like a public, like, that there is already a mission in the public to try and get people to go to Mars. So, yeah, I don't know. Yep, definitely crazy.
I would wonder why they would try to take public, just people from the public.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's people that sign up for it, people that are able and sign up for it. But it won't be regular people. You're going to have to weigh a certain amount. You're going to have to bring some type of value. Every person that goes is going to have like some type of value.
Mm-hmm.
Can't just be shitting around drinking your sody pops. Not on Mars. Yeah, one of the things that was tripping me out was sacrifice in the film. And it's like the idea of the sacrifice for the greater good. And me and a buddy were just talking about that. And it's like, you know, everything requires, anything good or worth having requires a sacrifice of something. And that like this life is essentially like, if you're disciplined and you're trying to accomplish goals, like it's all about sacrifice. What are you willing to give up? And it's like the more things that you want, the more you have to sacrifice. And it was just like, me and him kind of like, we're just joking, not joking, but we were just like came to the conclusion that 2025 is the year of the sacrifice. Because like if you give things up, you have more capacity for more things or more goals, more discipline, more everything. And it's just about, most people don't have things because they aren't willing to give up the things that either consume their time, hold them back, those things. And so, but if you do sacrifice those things, you essentially like this idea that if you sacrifice what feels good now, you get something that feels good later, right? That the idea of
Delayed satisfaction.
Right? And then obviously like this life is just so full of instant gratification. It's really easy to fall into that that process of just nonstop dopamine, nonstop gratification. And
yeah, what's that story about that culture that burns all their things every so often?
Yeah.
It's like 100 years or something, they burn everything.
Yeah, well, it's not 100.
Yeah, but...
Is it?
I don't remember.
I mean...
But I guess we could use that in a smaller sense. Like for us, we're clearing out all the things that were no longer necessary in the house. And it's like a huge clearing process. So we can be more clear-minded without clutter.
We did that when we left Myrtle Beach too. We weren't allowed to take it. We didn't have the space to take anything, and Tori tried to bring every little knickknack she's ever been given.
I still miss my bike.
But yeah, so I thought that was super cool. Right? It's like the characters have to make deep personal sacrifices for the sake of humanity's survival, whether it's leaving loved ones behind or facing the unknown. And you know, it's like the whole movie they're making painful decisions, but yeah, that scope can go to your life, or like the scope, you can change it as opposed, or change it in accordance to what you're going through in your life. It's like, you know, going into the unknown is going to require sacrifice, even if it's just something as simple as like sacrificing the comfortableness, you know. And that's like what we kind of always talk about, of like, you know, the obstacle is the way, going into the unknown, making yourself uncomfortable. And then another thing was the unity of science and spirituality. Like, so this movie is like deeply scientific, but like everything is like lines up right with science and physics. But in it, they're grappling with like these huge spiritual concepts like destiny, love, like does love, right? Like love transcending dimensions. Should they follow their hearts? Should they follow the data? But, you know, you see that a lot in, you know, in our reality, right? Like, because it's almost as if like spirituality and science are against each other, because, right, you have very spiritual people, and we a lot of times can believe in things that isn't proven by empirical data or by scientists. And then you have the scientists who can completely miss the point because there is no data on it, right? Whether it's like, you know, religion, God, or everything happens for a reason, synchronicity, or crystals, or, you know, whatever the case is. You know, it's like, oh, that's the, if you're on the science side, you can easily be like, oh, that's not real. It's not a replicable experiment. It can't be replicated, so it's not real. But then at the same time, what's real for one person can be nonsense to another. Like, you can have a real, as real gets, experience that can shift you and make you better, or pull you into a place that you need to be, as opposed to like science, right? Like having, like, can you recreate a spiritual experience? No. But if you've had one, you know what it is, right? It's like that thing, like you can't explain fire to someone who's never seen fire. And that confuses you because we've all seen fire. It's just like it's like trying to explain the unexplainable. And if you could explain it, if the person hasn't seen it, then you're talking nonsense. And that just goes to the idea that communication and language only helps describe like experiences. So you can only really relate and communicate to someone who has a relatable experience. Like, again, imagine you're talking to someone who's never seen fire. Now try to explain to that person what fire is. It's a thought concept because everyone's seen fire, but how would you explain fire to someone who's never seen it? And you'll quickly understand that you really can't. Like, you know, it's like, well, it's this living thing that moves and it's really hot. Like, you know, it's like we don't have the language. But if they've seen it before, then yes, you can explain fire. And that's the same thing with a spiritual experience. It's the same thing with a psychedelic experience. And so it's interesting and cool how this movie like really ties the two together. It's like showing their journey. It's like a science quest, like a quest through space, which is all about science, but also they're like, time has changed. They change as humans, and then they experience like like the team dynamics, and then they lose someone, and then someone's evil, and then they lose multiple people, but then they turn back around and save humanity. Like you can see this huge emotional and spiritual journey that they go through. So it's just cool that you see how the two like correlate, go together.
Yeah, it's the same thing with school, where you can become an expert in the language of knowing something. But then once you're put into the field for the first time, you don't know anything.
Mm-hmm.
But you think that because you've spent so much time studying it that you would be an expert. But in reality, knowing and experiencing are two separate things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the things that this whole movie that kind of ties into that I've been talking with my students about at jiu-jitsu, but one of the things I was learning about is like what it takes to be an expert. And one of the main tenets is deliberate practice. And it goes to this idea that like, okay, so one of the first steps is you need the repetitions. You need the practice. And one number that they give out there is like the 10,000 hour rule, like 10,000 hours into something is what you need to be an expert. However, that's not correct because we all have 10,000 hours at driving, but none of us are expert drivers. 10,000 hours of driving just allows you to go on autopilot while you drive. But that doesn't mean you can actually drive really well under strenuous conditions. And so in order to get really good at something, you need deliberate practice. And what is that? It's training specifically in uncomfortable areas to push yourself to your limits, like deliberately putting yourself where you need to be so that you can get the work in. It's like if you only train when you're comfortable, then you'll just remain the same. You have to actively put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Like again, if you want to learn how to shoot, you can shoot at a target all day, but if your heart starts racing and you never shot when your heart's racing, your performance goes straight to the dirt. And so there's ways to train that where like, they make you run and do a whole bunch of exercises, then shoot. So you're out of breath, your heart's racing, and then you still got to be able to pull the trigger and nail the target. They'll make you do like a whole obstacle course while you're doing it. And then they'll also jam your gun so that you have to, while you're in the middle of your shots and like have your aim, you got to stop, clear the bullet, clear the objection, not the objection, I think it's clear the object, right? And then reload and all that stuff. And it's like while they're yelling at you, they do a bunch of different things to kind of make you flustered so that you're able to operate under strenuous conditions. That's how you get better at shooting. And it's like the same idea with chess too. It's like you can be really, really good at chess, traditional chess, and then play a game of speed chess and just get wrecked. Because the second there's a timer, your heart rate goes up. You have to think. You don't have time to plan all your attacks. You have to just go. Because I think it's 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes, and once the 5 minutes, if you run out of time, you lose. So you could be really, really good, but what if the only time you can play is when you can take your time and choose what's your next move and think out all your options? So, again, back to that idea of deliberate practice where you have to make yourself uncomfortable. And that's like what this was saying is like the unknown is the uncomfortable. And where our brains are like rigged to stay in the comfortable. And we were kind of talking about that before with like the cats and obviously the baby. It's like when you have a kid, they're not going to want to do certain things, but you have to make them do these things because it's like whether it's, bathing or showering, right? Exercising or training or learning and education, like they naturally won't want to do those things, not because they don't want to do them, but because our brains are rigged to stay in the comfortable. And, we experience it with our cats. They don't want to go, they long to go outside. And then when we finally put them outside, they get all mad because we have like a catio, super expensive catio that we bought just for them. Did I talk about this already? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, anyways, yeah, they don't want to do it. So, but when we put them out there, and then we bring them back in, they're so happy. And so, yeah, just that idea of forcing yourself to go into the uncomfortable, and that's how you grow as a person.
Yeah, I mean, even the body's regulating temperature and everything to keep you at like a perfect homeostasis. So it goes beyond just the physical things that we're doing, but even internally, the body's constantly regulating and putting back in balance. So if you're drinking caffeine, it regulates to put you back at a normal state. And anything that you put into the body struggles to bring it back to normal. So.
I mean, we could keep going on and on and on about this movie, but
Yeah.
we barely touched on the Tesseract and time and space. Like, that's probably one of the trippiest parts of the movie.
The time and space.
Yeah, and the Tesseract.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea that love as a transcendent force. Yeah, a lot of people who have, like, visions, too, they experience, like, a love that they've never experienced before. So that's always interesting. Yeah, and if you think about it, like, how much love, like, love was a huge piece in Free Guy, right? And it's a huge piece in The Matrix. It's like, a lot of movies, love plays, like, a huge role. But if you think about it, too, it's like, you know, it's funny. So before, when I was real young, I always thought it, like, I thought, you know, it's like, how could you, like, I didn't want a kid because I wanted to, like, accomplish things in my own life, and I thought a kid would hold me back. And I'm like, how would you have time to do anything if you have a kid? Like, you won't have time for nothing. And then, but once you experience, like, you know, the love that you have for something else and to do whatever it takes to make sure that they're taken care of, you have, like, way more time. You have way more time. You have way more motivation, way more energy. And, yeah, it's pretty trippy. It's like you were telling your friends about, they said, like, oh, how much weight has your boyfriend gained? And you're like, oh, he's actually, like, in the best shape of his life. And they're like, what? And it's like, yeah, just this phase that I've gone through, just by trying my best to be as dialed in as possible, has been, like, a whole thing. But yeah, it's just been funny to me to, like, think one certain way and then go through an experience and legitimately feel my awareness grow, and then feel, like, how much more motivated I am to do things and to get things done is, I mean, that's, like, the definition of a spiritual experience.
Yeah, it's like a higher standard that holds you accountable to where you would just let things slide before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what people say, that when you have a kid, you don't know how things are going to happen, but things will work out. And things will move in your life to provide the space and opportunity for things to happen for you. And so just trusting the process. Because we have those thoughts all the time, like, oh, well, what's this going to look like? What's this going to look like? And we're like, we don't have the answers right now, but we just trust that it's going to work out. It's
well,
like,
I do, Tori. I trust you. Just kidding. Yeah. Anything else, friend?
I don't think so.
I think we killed it. As always, we really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you haven't seen the movie, check it out. If you have seen it and you have opinions or thoughts on it, please send it to us. We'd love to hear what you think. Any cool parts of the movie that you noticed, any deep meanings or deep truths that you saw in the movie that interested you, send it to us. We'd like to hear your thoughts. Maybe we'll talk about it in the next podcast. We'd love to hear it. We appreciate y'all so much. Thank you.